Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a short and sweet video on the CSS Box Model. This is something that you'll need to know if you're doing any kind of web development. Really, this is how things are structured and how you can apply things like margin, padding, and borders all around different CSS elements. So I'll show you a little bit about each one of those and how they interact with one another, and then you can be a pro. Let's jump into it. All right, here we are, and we have our split screen here in VS Code, and we have the HTML open up in this browser window. So just copy the path of your index and open it up in a browser, and you'll see this. All this code is going to be on GitHub, so link in the description to check it out and play around with it yourself. What we have is this box style, which is the inner content, and then we have an outer box style just to show some contrast and again see how the different margin and padding play with one another. This is kind of your default. So we have a height and a width of 100 pixels in the inner box, which is this content, and it has a margin of 5 pixels, padding of 2 pixels, and a border of 10 pixels. And I've put a gray color on the border just so it stands out. It all goes from inside to out. And so your content has a certain size, which is this height and width, and background color is going to apply to that content. Content is 100 by 100. It just has the word content in there for easy explanation on my part. Padding is going to be the padding around the element. This is like the next layer of the onion. If you think about this in like a set of rectangles that are just stacked and reference one another. This padding has 2 pixels around the content here, and then from there we have outside of that box the border, and that border is going to be 10 pixels here, and then the margin is outside of that, which is 5 pixels. So if we got rid of this border and did like 0 pixels, then this should shrink quite a bit. You can see it shrinked a little tiny bit on the outer element. If we brought it back and we did like 50, then you'll see this outer element get a little bit bigger. So you see that. Something to note is, like, as you saw there, if you add too much margin, it can actually impact the size of your content. If we, had this to be 400 and 400, then this shouldn't impact the size of our content. It should be the same, and we can kind of fiddle with this margin size. So let's say we wanted it to be 75. The margin gets bigger, but it doesn't impact our content size. So be mindful of that. If you're setting margin, it can impact the size of your content, which you may not want, which makes sense. We mess around a little bit with margin. So let's go back to our original 5 pixels and let's mess with padding and do like 50 pixels here. So you can see this grows the inside. So you have kind of the smaller box of content, and then padding increases that to where it is this size right here. So the border goes on the outside still, but the padding of the element, like, this is where you want to give it more breathing room. Margin is, you don't want to change the size of the actual content, you just want space around it on the outer edges. Padding, you want like some breathing room between parts of the content and other elements. So it lets you adjust, gives you multiple levers so that you can make those adjustments and make the web page look and feel exactly how you want it to. Margin is going to impact other elements more, and padding is going to impact the specific element more. So that's kind of my rule of thumb whenever I'm picking between, hey, do I need to do padding, or do I want this to use margin and have an impact on other elements on the page. Border is the last one. If we did like 100 pixels here, then this border is going to be super huge and take up the whole screen almost. So we can bring down our padding, and you can see content is about the same. The border is massive. I don't think you would ever do a border like that. Like 10 pixels is pretty significant. And that's how that works. We've set padding, margin, and border in order to calculate the size. So I'll open up the inspect tools here in Chrome, and you can actually get something similar in here with computed. So you can see, hey, we have a margin and we have border, and then we have padding, and then the actual size of the content. So the size of the content's 100, padding's 5, borders 10, margins 5. This is all computed, so the actual complete size of the element, you add all of these up. So you would go 5, 10, 5, 100, 5, 10, 5, and you would add all of them horizontally. You'd add all of them vertically. You can see the same values are here at the top. And that's how you get the actual size of your element and how the web browsers compute that in order to lay it out on the page. You can play around with this and actually modify values in here, and you could change the size. You know, it's really easy to do that in our files, so we don't need to do that. But you know, it's handy to have this and understand this is how the CSS box model works, and this will let you understand how to style things way more efficiently and be able to do it much faster. I hope you learned something. Hope this was valuable. If you like videos like this, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.